When I started my first company, my mentor, who's still, a really close friend to this day, told me that you can't control what happens to a company because you can work your hardest, you can do everything right, and everything can still fall apart in front of your face. But you can control the experience that you give people during that entire journey. And so entrepreneurship, right, like many people are very much focused on purely the outcome, but people don't appreciate the experience enough. And so you can still give people a good time regardless of how the outcome is. And so for me, entrepreneurship is really about trying to impact people as much as I can. I started my first company back in 2011 in the cloud computing space. And so I think you can also say I'm a fairly early adopter in technologies. Back when I started cloud computing, this was also during a time when people said, cloud computing's never going to make it because real enterprises, real businesses use bare metal, physical on-prem servers, and only developers who are trying to play with things use cloud. But now we go and we look at the world and we can't find a business that scales that doesn't use cloud, right? And it's really interesting to see that sort of transition. And I see something similar in crypto. And then from there, I built consumer apps as well. Just to test out the waters. Consumer apps didn't really go as well as the cloud computing company. Went to go pursue my master's degree at MIT. Shortly after that, while at MIT, I was working in the AI field. And this is before like AGI and ChatGPT and stuff. But back then, AI was really focused on image recognition and detection. And so I worked a lot on like facial detection, object detection, disease detection. So being able to look at images, X-rays and MRIs and be able to detect diseases such as cancer earlier, more accurately and faster than human doctors could. All throughout this whole journey, I've been in the crypto space. Back in 2013 is when I started mining Bitcoin just to kind of experiment with it using cloud servers and stuff. So learned a lot about cryptocurrency and blockchain there and dabbled in it and tried to find if there was any sort of recipes for success between AI and blockchain as well. But this was back in like 2019 before the AI blockchain hype really came into fruition. After that, right, like just being in the space, I've always seen a lot of problems with user experience and adoption and scalability. And so that's kind of what prompted myself and my co-founder to start Manta. We actually met in graduate school. I was at MIT, he was at Harvard.
What was your hardest decision as a co-founder during these 4 years?
Oh my God, so many hard decisions. I feel like every single week there's a hard decision.
Maybe some of the top, some of the hardest. Because entrepreneurship is about the decision making. Because me personally, I'm not a blogger. I do all this blog as a hobby. So they started as a hobby and this is continue as a hobby. And I also have around 70 people in the different teams. And I know how hard it's sometimes to solve all of these problems.
For myself personally, I think it's very hard for me as an individual to let go of people. And this comes in the form of team members. This comes in the form of partnerships, because I see a lot of potential in everything and everyone. And so I feel like there's always opportunity, but it may not necessarily always be the case. And if you hold on to that sort of thinking, then it can be impacted negatively on the project. Because when we started Manta, we're actually fully focused on just building out ZK for on-chain cryptography. And so our initial team was all just cryptographers. And we were in the Polkadot ecosystem. And then one day we had to make the hard decision to pivot also into becoming an Ethereum L2, because the reality is there weren't enough users in the Polkadot ecosystem. There still aren't enough users in the Polkadot ecosystem. And so despite how much we build, if no one uses it, does that mean that we've built something successful? Have we served a purpose? And I think the answer to that is no. Personally, I love the Polkadot ecosystem. I love the people there. I love the relationships I've built, right? And it was truly a hard decision to, leave that ecosystem in order to focus on a new one, because you don't want to leave your friends, right? And so any sort of decision when it comes to impacting relationships is always very hard for me.